Alrighty, so as I mentioned earlier, there was a chance that I was able to do the review of all these games after the final game is over because, with the way that there's only one game that is happening late at night, that gives me a chance to basically write down the notes for all these earlier game and then of course also review the last game that just finished a couple of minutes ago between the Whitecaps and Dows. And alas, that's what we're gonna do. And certainly, in terms of some of these resources, I mean, there were definitely some interesting resort. And then there is also what happened in this game between the Columbus Crew and the Seattle Sounders. And I would like to say that we saw a Mike McGee moment in this game between the Columbus Crew and the Seattle Sounder, where Sean Swatsky had to step in net after the Crew only goalkeeper on the starting 11 and also off the bench was sent off in this one, and that obviously I know there's gonna be a lot of discussion, and especially I can understand why Wilfred Nancy is very upset about the rules of the fact that where the Crew, the only reason why they only had Abraham Romero available in this one is their starting goalkeeper Patrick Schulte with the U.S. national team. Their backup goalkeeper, Nicholas Hagen, is with the Guatemalan national team. And remember when I also said that I thought Evan Bush was going to be stepped into this team? I forgot that he was also out long term with an injury. So with the way that Romero is pretty much like kind of like a fourth choice goalkeeper, and the fact that the Crew already used their option earlier the years in terms of the short term loans that they can of course call up their goalkeeper from their Columbus Crew 2 team. They basically were just kind of stuck with Romero, and they did try to basically plead the league for hardship in terms of the goalkeeping position, maybe bring in an emergency goalkeeper, similar to what we saw a couple of years ago when the Timbers were granted that and they got an emergency goalkeeper uh, in there because of that. But the Crew unfortunately didn't have that option, and that yeah. So adding all to that factor, that's where eventually we were gonna see a Mike McGee kind of moment. And like I said, kind of saw it happen in this one, but unfortunately, unlike what we saw the famous Mike McGee moment where Mike McGee of course stepped in as the goalkeeper as an outfield player and basically won that game for the Galaxy against the Quakes back in 2011. Unfortunately for Zwatsky, he didn't have any luck in terms of pulling that kind of moment. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Jackson puts it wide off a deflection. Not much chances really created as the shots were only 1-0 for Columbus 50 minutes in. The Sounders were sitting very deep in the beginning of this game. They were trying to not let the Crew any space to operate on the attack. I'm kind of surprised not many teams are trying to do that against the Crew. I mean, in some way, you kind of play into the Crew thing because they like to move the ball around, and even if you try to sit in a low block, they just have so many difference maker in terms of trying to break you down. Now, obviously, I think the Sounders could do it in this game because a lot of those difference maker is not available for the Crew in this one, and it's safe to say that they definitely missed those difference makers in this game. Arfston but then puts one into the stands before Jackson puts one way wide from long range. The shots were 4-0 for the Crew up to this point, but we have yet to see a shot on goal up to this point. Jordan Morris then missed an absolute sitter in the 32nd minute from point blank range. So to kind of answer sir my question of the fact that I'm kind of surprised that Jordan Morris didn't get a chance and why is he not still getting a chance with the U.S. men's national uh, team despite he's playing very well lately? Well, that's probably the answer. Yeah, that is definitely one that Jordan Morris would want to have back. Fortunately for him, he would get on the score sheet in this game. Jackson would then miss high from long range. The Crew definitely missed their high end talent attack because they just haven't really had a lot of success in terms of breaking down the Sounders defense. Romero then denied Rothrock from close range in the 38th minute, but then in the second minute stoppage time, this is when we saw the Mike McGee kind s moment where Romero, of course, got sent off in this one. He basically collided with Jordan Morris after he came off his lines there. So yeah, that obviously is dog soul. But now the big question is who's going to be the goalkeeper for the Crew because, like I said, they don't have a backup goalkeeper for this game because of the thing I explained just a couple of minutes ago. So here comes Sean Soswatsky, a chance to get the Mike McGee treatment, come in on goal, and I had a feeling it was going to be Sean Soswatsky. He's pretty much played almost every single position this year. I would not be surprised just for the fun of it. Wilfred Nancy will play him in every position this year because now he's he's now play as a goalkeeper. I think the only position he's left to play maybe is either on the wing or as a number nine because he's definitely played every position in the midfield and in the defensive area. So yeah, so Swatsky of course comes in, and it's kind of daunting for the fact that the first thing he has to do is deal with the free kick from Albert Rusnak, and yeah, he had no luck in terms of dealing with this one as Rusnak would buries this one there. You could maybe question the wall wasn't really set up very well, but again. I'm not gonna blame Sean Swatsky. In fact, I'm gonna praise Sean Swatsky of what he did, and he's already a fan favorite in terms of the crew fan base. I think he just up to level 10 or even level 11 after this one. I mean, it's always a tough moment when you're an outfield player stepping in relief in goal. I think the last time I saw was a couple of years ago when Alex Rodon basically stepped in goal after Stephen Fry got himself injured, and Alex Rodon has to step in for the last couple of games against the Quakes, and they were able to win the game as a result. But we kind of knew that this was going to be a daunting task now for the crew with the way that in the second half, the Sounders are going to be shoot on site. In the second half, as the Sounders were leading 1-0, Atencio would puts it high from long range. Again, they were on shoot on site. They're going to try to test Swatsky as much as possible. And then in the 60th minute, they make it 2-0. It's Morris. He scored from Rock to make it 2-0 in favor of the Sounders. For me, kind of feel like heading into the second half, not only we might see another Mike McGee kind of type of moment, but I just never count out this Columbus Crew team. If there's one thing you gotta know about Wilfred Nancy, you never count this team out. They always able to fight through adversity no matter what happened. But unfortunately, it feels like this adversity was just too much to overcome because just 7 minutes later, Albert Rusnak would score his second goal of the game from Atencio to make it 3-0 in this one, and then he would complete his hat trick from Atencio and Malinugu in the 70th minute, and yeah, that is one that I mean, out of all the goals that Swatsky conceded. I mean, some of them obviously, if they still had their main goalkeeper, those ones are probably going to be saved. I think that one by Rusnak, the one that completes his hat trick, is probably one that I don't think no goalkeeper is going to say. I don't even think both Schulte or Hagen or even Romero in goal is going to save that one. That was hit so well there, and what a way for Albert Rusnak to complete his hat trick. But this is also where I said I felt really bad for Swatsky there because yeah, he was getting no help from his defense. This defense for the crew pretty much just collapsed in the second half. But Seattle didn't seem to care. They were pushing for a fifth goal. They were showing no mercy in this one. Rolf Rock had a shot that was deflected and goes wide before Atencio puts it high from close. Rossi then had a rare chance, but he hits the side netting in the 77th minute. It was a very quiet game for Diego Rossi in this one, and that again, I think that a part of that is not having the likes of Kuto there. It just doesn't fit as well as what the crew needed. Rodon then hits one right to Zazwatsky, which got a big cheer because that was his first save, and also whatever is left of the crowd inside lower.com field. I mean, that stadium really empty out by the time the fourth goal was conceded. But in the second minute stoppage time, Morris was in on goal here, and he was trying to round Zazwatsky. But credit to Zazwatsky, this was probably the best moment he has as a goalkeeper. He was able to make a sliding kick save there, almost like he was acting like a defender, basically, blocking in the shots there, or blocking any passes whatsoever. So if there's one thing that I think if Zazwatsky can at least make a good save is that he can basically come off his lines and try to block those shots because that's kind of what usually a defender and midfielder would usually do when they try to block down those passes and those shots. But either way, in the end, unsurprisingly, the Sounders win 4-0 in this one. The shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 15 that the Sounders had, 7 shots on goal compared to 1 that the crew had, 6 shots off target compared to 4 that Seattle has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that the crew has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Seattle has in this one. I'm surprised the crew actually had double-digit shot because they pretty much had no chances in the second half besides maybe that Rossi chances. And yeah, again, I know the crew has faced a lot of crazy adversity, and as I said before, I think this one is just too much to say. And the Sounders, to their credit, they did they took advantage of that and they can run with all 3 points. But for the Crew, and again, I would not blame Wilfred Nancy of being very upset of the not only with the difficult situation that he has to face after he only had his only goalkeeper being sent off in this one. But he's gonna once again laminate in terms of the flaws of the CBA. He's been one of the more outspoken critic when it comes to the CBA and some of the flaws in it. And I think that this is gonna be one thing that he's gonna lay out, and also one thing that maybe in the future CBA we would at least give a little bit more lingering room, because again it's unfortunate how things have gone, and I feel like maybe the league should at least give the Crew a little bit of a hardship pass, and that they should at least allow one of their Crew 2 goalkeeper to basically play for this team on a short-term loan, even they exhausted that role. And maybe that's also something that we could also see as a bit of a change in the rules, because obviously the league can always change some of the rules by the CBA. We saw some of the roster rule changes this year as well. That may be something that they're going to look at, because again, when you have this situation, it kind of doesn't help. Like this could have been a very good game. I mean, the Crew and the Sounders, at least in the first half before the whole Mike McGee situation moment kind of happened. It was actually turns out to be a good game, but unfortunately, just this kind of just ruins it for the rest of the night. And for the Crew, I think they're just gonna look past it. This is just kind of one of those unfortunate things that it's not going to really damage this team in the near future. If anything, this will make this team even more fired up heading into the next game. And I would definitely not want to be the next opponent to face the Columbus Crew, because this is going to be a team that is going to be very fired up to try to bounce back after an unfortunate situation like what we saw in this game. But that being said, moving on in the next match is New England and St. Louis. So this is a matchup, as I mentioned, between two teams that want 3 points to keep their playoff hopes alive. And at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know if either of these teams are going to be happy with the fact that it ended in a draw. Though in the first half, first minute of this game, the first shot of the game did see Vasiliev puts it wide from close. Then Lubin hits one right to Ivicic. I thought it was a strong start for St. Louis. Keep in mind, St. Louis have not won a single road game. They're the only team to not won a single road game this season, which is kind of quite surprising to see, considering they were pretty good last season on the road. Toysher then hits it right to Ivicic. There was a shout for a handball in the box, not given to St. Louis. But then in the 24th minute, on the back of sustained pressure, St. Louis gets the lead. And guess who? It's the old Revs defender Henry Kessler. Well, I said it's old. He's not really that old. He's been with the refs for a while now. But yeah, it has to be him. Kessler scoring here from Leuven to give New England a 1-0 lead. It was kind of odd celebration where he kind of celebrated with the team, and then he just kind of didn't celebrate in front of the refs supporter section, and in some way kind of giving respect to the Rev supporter section. So yeah, that I mean I've seen before where players, when they score against their former team, they elected to not to celebrate, and I was assuming that was going to be the same case for Henry Kessler, consider he's been with that team for a long time now. But I guess he kind of somewhat give at least respect to his old team, but at the same time he couldn't help it, because again I think you can maybe also give a pass to the defenders when it comes to that, because it's not very often when you see defenders score a goal, and it's also not often to see that Henry Kessler score a goal. I think this is only his like third career goal in his MLS career. Miller did look to respond, but he hits this one right to Berkey. That was also the first shot for the Revs. It was a very slow start for the Revs in this one, and for a team that has some playoff aspiration, this is just not good enough. And it seems like that what I wrote that kind of woke the Revs up, because just 2 minutes later after I wrote that, like Langoni would score from Will Sands to tie the game up at one apiece. And Henry Kessler, you remember how he scored the opener a couple of minutes ago? Yeah, he basically went from hero to zero here. He was the big reason why this goal was conceded. Slipped there and play Lagoni. And so in some way, he was kind of helping both St. Louis and also kind of helping his old team, kind of acting like a double agent in this game as well. Toy sure did look to respond, but he hits it right to Ivicic after just a bad turnover from New England. Veroni would then miss wide from long range, and then the post would deny Barrero, and the lead was with New England. They were pressing to try to get the lead before halftime. And they do. It's Carlos Hill in the 40th minute. He scored from Sands and Harks to give the Revs a 2-1 lead. Took a fortunate deflection there from Carlos Hill, and especially off of his weaker right foot as well. But nevertheless, New England takes the lead in the 40th minute, and they would take the lead heading into halftime time with a 2-1 lead. In the second half, Hill tried to score his second one from the free kick, but he puts it high. Manguni then hits one that was actually spilled by Berkey, and he just about covers it. Keep in mind, it was really starting to pour down here at Gillette Stadium. So yeah, there was no doubt that goalkeepers they were going to have their hands full in terms of holding on to the ball. And I even mentioned Berkey; he got away with that one because he really gave up a big rebound there, and it was very fortunate that was able to smother this one just in time before any Revs player pounced on it. Ivicic then denied Hardo after the Revs also turned the ball over again. Turnover was a big problem for New England in this game, especially as we go along in this one. Ivicic then denied Hardo again from close range. St. Louis looked like they are starting to get the momentum back. They were pressing for the equalizer. Ivicic then denied Leuven from long range, but then the 73rd minute, the pressure finally broke the refs. It's Simon Betcher. He scored from Klaus and Hardo to tie the game up at 2 apiece. I'll tell you what, ever since Charles Klaus came back, I know he's not known to be the goal scorer for this team, but he has definitely come up big on the assist chart. Maybe that's kind of a different role that he's now playing, especially with the way that it looks like John Hackman is playing two striker system for St. Louis, with Cloth being the supporter striker there to Simon Betcher. But yeah, that ties the game up at 2 apiece. I even wrote that just seems coming because St. Louis was putting a lot of pressure on this New England team. There was a shout for a handball for New England, not given, and then in the 86th minute, Hardo would put the ball into the back of net. It looked like St. Louis got the lead, but the goal was actually disallowed because there was a foul in the box. And then they go to VAR to see whether or not if Heber handballed this one on the other end of the same play. And this is where we get to the most controversial call. And this is where New England fans are very upset about this call. And I don't blame them because, man, this feels like it's right there in terms of borderline of the fact that Heber looked like his arm was kind of borderline in terms of being in an unnatural position. I know that Taylor Twellman, of course, mentioned the fact that it seems like his hand was in a natural position. I don't think so. I think it's very close, and in many ways, I wouldn't be surprised if that, of course, was what was called a penalty. I have seen that being called a penalty, and again, the good old question: what is a handball nowadays? Both in this league and also in the world of football. But here, fortunately for St. Louis, they got away with one as VAR says no. But for New England, also the only team to still not be giving a penalty this year. And yeah, it looked like they were going to finally be the last team to be awarded a penalty, but VAR basically denies them there. And really, as the time winds down, both of these teams was pressing to try to get the winner, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. In the 92nd minute, Wood puts it high from long range, but in the end, it ends in a frustrating 2-2 draw for both of these teams. The shots in this one, 11 shots with the 21 that St. Louis had, 11 shots on goal for the 4 that New England has, 3 shots off target for the 5 that St. Louis had, 5 shots that was blocked for the 3 that New England has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that St. Louis has in this game. And like I said, I don't think either of these teams will be happy with this result. I mean, for St. Louis, this is probably one of the better road game that they have played this season. They have really struggled this year on the road, as I mentioned. Still have yet to register a win on the road, and they had the chances to do so as well. But for New England, they'll be frustrated because of the fact that they not only didn't play well at all in this game, but the fact that you don't want to draw points when you're playing at home, especially with the way that heading into the last 8 games, 5 of those 8 are on the road. You cannot afford to drop more home points if you have any aspiration of making the playoffs. And I know New England is in the thick of that big race to trying to be one of those two teams that finish in the wild card spot, as that's kind of the battle right now between 8th all the way down to 15. But this is not going to do it. Draws is not going to do it if they want to get themselves in a good position heading into the last 4 weeks and even heading to decision day of making the playoffs. With that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is Sporting KC and the New York Red Bulls. So I feel like this game is kind of a game where we saw the narrative of both teams kind of being exposed in big ways. So the big narrative of the Red Bulls, at least of the last couple of games, is that they just can't finish, and it's shown once again in this game where they missed some big opportunity that could have got them all 3 points. And then for Sporting KC, obviously their narrative this season is that they can't hold on to leads late in the game. So guess what happened in this one? They couldn't hold on to the lead in the game to get a big 3 points to keep their faint playoff hopes alive. But in the first half, really, if you watch the first 20 minutes, I send my condolences because nothing really happened in the first 20 minutes. In fact, this was a really dull game, probably the dullest game of the night, and that's saying something because I'll mention it in just a bit that there was also a pretty dull game in this match week as well. But in the 23rd minute, the first shot of the game did see Russell hits one into the wall on the free kick. The first shot for the Bulls saw Manuel miss wide despite having an empty net there. I mean, that sounds about right because Elias Manuel is joining Van Zier in the snake bin club. I mean, those two players are probably the most snake bin number 9 right now in the league because they just are not allowed to score a goal right now, and also kind of just sums up the Red Bulls lately. It's hard to believe, even in some of these big chances that the Red Bulls have, even if you give them an empty net to shoot, they still somehow puts it set wide. And again, it's just a sign of a team that is clearly have no confidence whatsoever in front of goal. At least the attackers that is. In the 24th minute, Manuel would puts it high from long range because of course he does that. And then he missed one on an outstretched attempt in the 4th minute of stoppage time, and we do head to halftime scoreless in this one, despite the fact that the Red Bulls had some golden opportunity to take the lead in this one. And now we come back to haunt them at least 9 minutes into the second half because Sporting KC really on their second shot of the game, they score. It's Alan Polito. Remember him? Him being a lethal goal scorer. It hasn't really happened this year whatsoever, but he finally got on the score sheet here from Davis to give Sporting KC a 1-0 lead. I even wrote the drought is over now. It's been a long time since Alan Polito has got on the score sheet for the Sporting KC side. And again, just really the first chance of the second half up to this point. Only the second shot of the game for Sporting KC up to this point. Tommy would then make it 2-0 in this one, but unfortunately the flag did not agree with him there, and that was offside. Melia then tipped Neal's shot over in the 70th minute, and then Van Zier basically had a Neal's Manuel moment, had a point blank effort, only hits it right to Melia. Hall was then in on goal there, but he puts one into the stands. But then 1 minute later, the youngster came to a rescue as he scored here to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But really, for Tim Melia, yeah, that is not a great moment for him. Just getting completely flat-footed there as a result sort of it. But the Rebels wouldn't care. They need any luck they can get with the way that they have been so snake bitten in front of goal. And then in the second minute stoppage time, Jake Davis of course got himself a second yellow card off the game. The fun fact though is the fact that Davis was actually going to be suspended in the next game for yellow card accumulation. So yeah, him getting a second yellow card kind of didn't really change anything. He was going to miss the next game either way. But either way, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. Shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 4 that Sporting KC had. 1 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Red Bulls had. 7 shots off target for the 1 that Sporting KC had. 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Red Bulls had. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. Again, this feels like it's another one of those games where neither of these head coaches are going to be happy with the resort. The narrative continued for the Red Bulls. They just simply has to be better when it comes to their finishing. And for Sporting KC, I mean, I guess the old narrative comes back. I mean, in terms of on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of the pain level that Sporting KC fan feels after giving up this late goal, many of them might say it's a 2 out of 3. There's been more painful losses that Sporting KC have suffered, or even though this is not a loss, it kind of does feel like it with them giving up a late goal, and their hopes of making the playoffs. It's dwindling right now. It's getting to a point where I don't think they're gonna make it. They're basically focused on the U.S. Open right now and hope that they can continue the narrative of LAFC also losing the final with them getting a U.S. Open Cup win to salvage of what has been a very disappointing season for Sporting KC. But now moving on, in the last match on this board, that is Chicago and DC United. So in a game where it was a playoff 6-pointer, it was a desperation derby for both of these teams to get 3 points to maybe even get themselves above the red line. it's DC United, the one to do so. And again, to just show you how tight the race is in the Eastern Conference, it doesn't take much. You can win just 2 games in a row, and all of a sudden you find yourself at above the red line, and that's what DC found themselves. They're now in ninth position all of a sudden after getting a big 2-1 win against the Fire. This game, of course, was played at SeaGate Stadium, and it feels like the Fire paid tribute to that because pretty much not many people showed up in this game whatsoever. Dahome then puts it high after just a bad giveaway there from the Fire. There was a shout for a penalty for the Fire not given. The shots were only 1-0 for DC, at least early in this game, but then on their second shot, it's in the back of net. And guess who? It's Christian Benteke. His 18 goals this season. It's hard to believe he has scored that many goals this year, and he's now leading the Golden Boot race as well. Who saw that coming? As you know, I mean, I know Benteke he has done very well so far ever since he came into the league, but nobody would have thought that he would be now leading the Golden Boot race. But he scored here from Click to give DC a 1-0 lead. He's pretty much also single handedly carrying this DC attack this year as well. And again, this took a bit of a deflection, but really just some ball watching defending there from the Fire. That was not great defending there from the Fire. There, just bunch of guys watching that cross comes in, not dealing with whatsoever. And then just 4 minutes later, DC make it 2-0. It's Pirani. He scored from Click and Benteke here to make it 2-0 for DC. Shroud then puts it wide after just another giveaway there for the Fire. It was all DC up to this point. It looked like the Fire is starting the usual narrative of not performing whatsoever in September and go through a usual collapse to miss the playoffs. Though in the 40th minute, Acosta did had a volley that struck the post, and it was struck so hard that it actually uh, went through the goal mouth of DC there. Fortunately for DC, nobody was there to pounce on the rebound. But we do head to halftime with DC leading 2-0. In the second half, whatever Frank Copa said to this team, it kind of worked out because they looked like a different team in the beginning of the second half. Kuipers would hits one right to Bono. Barlow would then miss wide on the outstretched leg because, of course, Barlow would miss a chance there. Yeah, I mean, it feels like if you're a Red Bulls attacker or any associated with the Red Bulls as Tom Barlow for a long time has been a Red Bulls player, you know you're not going to score a lot of goals or if any goals so far this season. But I thought it was a much better start for the Fire, and they had to get off to a good start. They were staring down the barrels here, and they were rewarded by that in the 54th minute of getting one back as Andrew Guzman finally scored his first goal for his hometown club, that is the Chicago Fire. And what a way to score his first goal for the Fire with just an absolute golazo there. I mean, he basically hits this one off the volley. Couldn't hit it more sweeter than you think it is. And yeah, just like that, it was 2-1 up to this point. The momentum was clearly with the Fire and DC. This is where we see why this team has not been great this year, which is just holding on to leads has been a huge problem for DC. They have given up the most points out of any team this season when it comes to them in a leading position, and it looks like here we go again. And I'm pretty sure DC fans probably think that is the case after that goal. They conceded wins to the back of net, but to their credit, they started to drop deep in their lines, and they did a good job in terms of doing so. As Fire really couldn't find any space to operate. Jimenez did look to score on the volley himself, but he got that one all wrong there. Brady then denied Mero, as that was really the first real attack that DC has had in the second half, and maybe even going back to the chance they had in the 31st minute. Baji then just missed wide from close range. DC actually was trying to put this game away, and that momentum that the Fire had, remember when they got one back, it looked like they were going to get things going. Yeah, it was nowhere to be found late in the second half, as in the end, DC, they get a massive 3 points in this one, and as I mentioned, it doesn't take a lot. You can have just a mini 2-game winning streak, but now you can definitely find yourself above the red line, and that's what DC are right now. The shots in this one, not a lot of shots. 9 shots for the 6 that Chicago has. 3 shots on goal for the 2 that the Fire has. 2 shots off target for the 3 that DC had. 3 shots on block for the 1 that Chicago has. And possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that DC has in this game. And for the Fire, yeah, looks like their usual September collapse is beginning, and it sucks. It really does sucks to see. Even I'm not a Fire fan, but it sucks to see that it's happened again. Though, if you ask any Fire fans, I mean, as much as they say that it sucks, it's kind of on schedule. The fact that it feels like every September, even when you think that this team is in a position to make it to the playoffs or look like they're going to end that long playoff drought, which is the longest in the league, they do this in September, start this losing streak, and they probably could be out in the playoff contention by the end of this September. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last two games to finish up this review of match week number 30, also known as a match week that every head coaches and players and fans hated because these are the unfortunate teams that had to play during the international break. So moving on in the next one. So this was also the other dull game of the night. Man, who knew that when you have players that are missing due to international duty would make these games even worse than it is. And again, just another reason why MLS should not be playing games during the international break. But one thing I will say about this game between the Dynamo and LAFC, no doubt LAFC would be the more happier side because again, they pretty much missing most of their attack and heading to Houston and playing against a team that they have not done very well in the regular season, especially losing to them just a week ago in their home turf. I mean, there's not a chance that they would have got anything out of this, but credit to LAFC, they did exactly that. But that was also partially the fact that the Dynamo attack was nowhere to be found in this game. In the first half, 4 minutes in, Tillman would puts it high from close range. LAFC, I thought they were on the front foot as they were looking for the lead here. Dynamo did start to get more of the possession as the games goes along, but they can't seem to break down this LAFC defense and create chances. That would also be a foreshadow of what we see for a majority of this game. Bossy then missed a sitter off the volley. That also would be another thing that will foreshadow for the rest of the game because not only the fact that Houston attack was nowhere to be found, their finishing was nowhere to be found in this game, and that also is going to go down as one of the worst miss of the season because Bossy, I mean, he was right there. He had he was all he had to do. Like he didn't even need to put too much power in the volley, or maybe he didn't even need to hit it first time on the volley, and he did, and he got that one horribly wrong there. In the 5th minute of stoppage time, it looked like we did get the opening goal as Hollinshead put the ball into the back net. Unfortunately, the goal was disallowed for offside on the development play. I believe Giroux was the one that was in an offside position on the developmental play, but yeah, that goal, of course, was chopped off. That also would be the closest we came to anybody putting the ball into the back net. And we head to halftime, scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Houston continued to have most of the possession, but like the first half, pretty much lackluster going for it. Just had no answer most of the time going for it. Giroux with the hand puts it way wide from long range for Lloris with tip alley long range shot over. Clark then punched a ball that actually hit his own teammate Kovacic and missed wide there, and that almost was a disaster for the Dynamo because that came after just a back pass there, and then there's even a worse giveaway at the back from the Dynamo, and that could have been just a gifted goal that LAFC would have got all free, maybe get all 3 points in this game. Escobar then puts it high from close, which I thought that kind of just sums up the Dynamo night. The attack just they didn't look the same. They looked nothing like the attack that we saw just a week ago against the Dynamo. Or not, I'm sorry, not against the Dynamo, but against LAFC. Ponce then hits it wide from close in the 88th minute before Segura hits it right to Clark. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of this game. It was a very dull 0-0 draw, probably one of the most boring 0-0 draw we saw this season. And the shots in this one, 12 shots for the 7 that LAFC had, 2 shots on goal for the 4 that Dynamo has, 5 shots off target for the 4 that LAFC had, 1 shot was blocked for the 2 that Houston had, and possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that LAFC has in this game. LAFC would absolutely take this because again, missing most of their roster, facing against a team that they have not done well in the regular season, they'll take a point and run with it and trying to get huge 3 points in the pivotal El Tráfico match up next weekend that could decide who's going to finish at the top of the West. But the Houston Dynamo, I mean, I mentioned before in the preview, this season they have had problems getting wins at homes. I mean, usually Houston has been very good at home, but this year, I mean, they have just kind of looked lackluster. And I think the other thing that is got to be concerned if you're a Houston Dynamo fan, when this team is given possession and when this team is asked to break down their opposition, they at times have shown that they have no answer in terms of doing so, and that could be concerning because now the blueprint could be out. All you need to do if you're facing against the Dynamo is to just make sure they have most of the possession, and I mean they do have match winners there that can break down teams, but there's been times where they just haven't shown that, especially at home this year, and that's got to be concerning if you're Ben Olsen, especially if they do finish in the top four where they're gonna get home field advantage. I mean, that's kind of almost a bad thing for the Dynamo, considering they're more comfortable on the road compared to when they're playing at home. Well, that being said, moving on into the last game on this board. So this game also ended in a 0-0 draw between Vancouver and Dallas. Though unlike this game where it was a dull 0-0 draw, this was not the case. And in many ways, this was a game where for Vancouver, I gotta say, for a team that were down most of their key players and were pretty much playing their second string, they really looked very well against Dallas. And in many ways, I thought coming into this game, if Vancouver would get a point out of this, I think they'll be happy. But given how this game turns out, they'll probably be the more frustrated side of only getting a point out of this game, consider all the chances that they miss in this game. But early on, we had a little coming together straight away. I mean, just 4 minutes in, you usually do not see coming together that early in the game, unless if it's an MLS versus Liga MX matchup. But yeah, Musa and Blackman kind of had some choice words with each other early in this game. The first shot of the game did see Mao White shot away in the 10th minute. The Whitecaps had most of the possession and dictate the play. Musa did try to chip the goalkeeper, tried to do a Lucas Oriano there, but he missed that one high from long range. Troop then ringed the post, but he actually fall back to Laborde, and he had a chance to score from the empty net, but he missed that one wide. And again, despite short-handed, the Whitecaps, they have looked well. They look like they were the better team. They started creating some good chances. Maurer would then deny Laborda on the header, but this one was still goal bound and it was clear off the line. This will not be the last time we've seen Jimmy Maurer almost made a bit of a howler kind of kind of kind of moment. I mean, I was kind of expected because of the way that he hasn't played a lot game. He was definitely very rusty in this one, and in some way he's probably very fortunate that he got away with those howlers moment throughout this game. But he did then deny Raposo, but it was recycle, and somehow in some way this ball did not go in. I mean, this moment just kind of sums up the Whitecaps slug. They were just getting absolutely blue ball by the post in this one. I think Krylak had the best chance here, hitting the post here. There was no doubt that at least at this point, I thought the Whitecaps were knocking on the door. But can they finally show that clinical finishing, which was pretty much lacking in this game? Raposo then hits it right to Maurer. The shots were now 9-1 for Vancouver. I mean, it was all Vancouver in this game. And again, for Dallas coming into this one, I know that they're not a good road team, but this is definitely discouraging if you're a Dallas fan seeing the fact that you need to win this game against a short-handed Whitecaps team, and they're just getting absolutely slaughtered, at least in the first half. And the good news is that it's still 0-0 up to this point. Though that being said, in the 44th minute, they almost scored themselves when Takaoka just about fingertip that one to Guy Ensemble header over the bar there. I mean, if that one went in, that would have been one of the most undeserved goal, and probably just a goal that is completely against the run of plays. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Musa was in on goal there, but he missed one in the 50th minute. I thought the script kind of flipped, and it feels like Dallas started to become more positive. Again, whatever Peter Lucian said to this team, it definitely has changed the mood. Something tells me Peter Lucian must have said that, yeah, this team is still fighting for playoffs, and whatever they did in the first half, it's not going to cut it in terms of trying to make it to the playoffs. And the Whitecaps were looked like the one that they were getting pinned back. Though in the 59th minute, Blackman would head it wide from close range, and then in the 66th minute, Musa would put the ball into the back net. But just like in this game between Houston and LAFC, that's the closest we saw the ball hitting the back net, and of course they didn't count it because there was an offside. And this came after Ariola struck the post here, but unfortunately, Pedro Musa on the rebound was in an offside position. Blackman then had a looping header that hit the post in the 72nd minute. So again, just like a game we saw between the Red Bulls and the Union a week ago, the post was kind of the factor. Although it wasn't as crazy as what we saw in the other game where there was like 6 posts that was hit and the Red Bulls hit like 5 of them as a resort. Again, the posters have not been kind to the Whitecaps in this one, but also the post has kind of been the MVP at least for Jimmy Maurer because again, this was one where he came off his line, didn't get to the ball first, and just almost a near howler kind of moment. Very fortunate that the post was in the way where Blackman looping header didn't just sneak into the back of the net. Kamungo then hits one right to Takoka. I thought this game was kind of up for grabs down the stretch, but question is, who can show that clinical finishing? Well, Caicedo tried to do so. He was round the keeper. Well, at least he tried to do so, but Maurer just about punched that one away. There was a shout for a handball for the Whitecaps, not given. Florie Chateau would then blast one high in the back post, and then in the 6 minute stoppage time, Jimmy Maurer probably the best moment of the night, and probably the closest we came to seeing anyone of. Well, actually, I wouldn't say it's the closest moment, but it's one of the closest moment. But definitely a moment where we see one. Both goalkeeper made an incredible save as Mount just absolutely robbed Caicedo from point blank. I mean, David Caicedo probably couldn't believe how he didn't put that one away, and the Whitecaps probably thinking how in the world they didn't get all 3 points despite shorthanded as it ends in a 0-0 draw. The shots in this one, 20 shots for the 6 that Dallas had, 2 shots on goal for the 5 that the Whitecaps had, 3 shots off target for the 2 that Dallas had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 8 that the Whitecaps had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Dallas has in this game. And again, the Whitecaps coming into this game, if you were to throw any Whitecaps fan to get a point out of this game despite being shorthanded, I'm pretty sure they'll definitely take it. But after how this game plays out and how many golden opportunity that they miss in this game, they'll definitely be feeling very frustrated that they didn't get all 3 points. And you can maybe say the same about FC Dallas as well. Again, yes, there was a couple of times where they were really on the ropes in this game, but you're facing against a backup kind of Whitecaps team, and you still get absolutely shredded like that. That has got to be a huge concern for if you're a Dallas fan. And again, this team, they got to win some games. I mean, they haven't been doing that well this season at home as well. So if they don't pick up their road performance as well, I don't think they're gonna make it in terms of this tight playoff race that we kind of started to see a little bit in the Western Conference. It's not as tight as what we see in the East, but certainly it is starting to heat up a little bit as the season goes along, and as that's of course as the case, as when we see a full slate of action next week, it should be interesting to see how the playoff race would look for both conference itself. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of all of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.